If you want massive traps that insert from your shoulders all the way up to your ears, you need to do these 3 things. Number 1, you need to put your ego aside and stop doing partial reps on shrugs. Quarter reps don't build big legs on a squat, they don't build a big chest on bench, and they definitely don't get those traps growing when you only move the bar an inch on shrugs. Number 2, you need to get strong on all upper body compound lifts. Traps are not just about shrugs, but they're actually heavily involved in presses, raises, pulls, and virtually all upper body movement patterns to some degree. And third will always be quality over quantity. We'll get into the sets, reps, and volume, but in general, because the traps are worked so much indirectly, we don't need a ton of direct work. We just need to make sure that the direct work that we do is actually high quality. But let's dive into what good reps on a shrug actually look like. Traps are a fairly large muscle group that insert all the way down into the upper back, and grabbing a barbell and slapping 5 or 6 plates on it and moving it 1/4 of an inch, that might train your ego, but it's doing virtually nothing for trap growth. And by using an appropriate load that allows you to fully stretch the traps at the bottom and pull the shoulders all the way up to the ears at the top, you create a much greater stress to the muscles and in turn, a much greater rate of muscle growth. Personally, I use no more than 100 to 120 pound dumbbells and 2 to 3 plates max on a barbell. My lifting cue is to let the bar pull my traps all the way down at the bottom into a deep stretch and initiate the movement by trying to bring my elbows as high as possible. Most people will tell you to try to bring your shoulders up to touch your ears, which can work fine, but I've found with many people, including myself, that we naturally stop a bit lower than our true range of motion by doing this. And if we mentally focus on where our elbows are and pull the elbows as high as possible, the weight on the bar and your shoulders will follow. But we're actually now able to shrug those shoulders up just a little bit higher than we would otherwise. This is one of those tips where it might not sound like it makes much sense or much of a difference, but all I can tell you is just try it. You won't be disappointed. But now remember, shrugs are your number 1 direct trap builder. But don't forget, traps are not just built by doing shrugs. The traps are involved in almost every upper body compound lift. And with that said, you need to get strong on all upper body compounds if you want to maximize your trap growth. Getting strong on overhead presses generally aren't thought of as trap builders, but don't be confused. Being a strong presser will require strong traps. Don't skip heavy overhead and incline presses. Not just upper body, but heavy deadlifts and hip hinges also play a role in the development of traps. If you're doing your presses, pulls, hip hinges, and getting progressively stronger on them, your traps are already going to be hammered with lots of indirect work, which is not a problem as they tend to be able to handle lots of volume. But to maximally stimulate them, we do want some direct work. But even just one exercise done directly, executed with a high level of intensity, should be sufficient, provided you're not skipping out on other compounds. That can be dumbbell, barbell, a machine, or even a decent cable setup, provided that you load enough weight for your strength level. My number 1 choice would always be use the variation you personally get the best stretch of the traps and personally have the greatest mind-muscle connection with. I've done shrugs with 4 to 5 plates for years, and that did virtually nothing for my trap development. Yet, dropping down to 225 to 315, done with a greater stretch, greater contraction, and a greater range of motion, all dramatically improved them. So don't be the guy in the gym doing quarter reps with 5 plates. That's not impressive, but actually having well-developed traps is. Apply these tips into your training now if your goal is massive traps. And if you want the exact training programs that I personally recommend to build muscle using proven old school bodybuilding methods, check out all my old school mass game programs down below. And as always, if you want to see more of the best original bodybuilding content just like this, make sure to hit subscribe.